Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are honored to have back today Dr. Kay Fontana. She's the founder and life force coach behind Healing Our Grieving Hearts. That's also the website, healingourgrievinghearts.com. And she's very compassionate and dedicated to helping so many who's dealing with grief. And grief comes in many forms. And we all know, especially around the holidays and special times, it's a little harder. So first and foremost, Dr. Kay, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Jill. Glad
Oh,
to be here.
same here. And for those new timers out there who may not be familiar with the process of life force coaching and, of course, grief recovery, why don't you give us a little, insight as to what you do? By the way, she also does energy healing. So there's a lot
I
to you. Go ahead. Give us a little of your background, Dr.
there
Kay.
there is. Well, I've been a grief recovery specialist and licensed spiritual practitioner for 10 years, and also a life coach for about 18 years. And after my husband passed away last January of 2023, I re-embarked on this journey of grief work with clients, and I feel it's so important that because grief is such a misunderstood thing, that people don't know how to respond to grief, or they don't know how to interact with people who are grieving. And what so my mission is to help those people, especially women who have lost a spouse, to reinvent themselves, to find their purpose and passion in life through coaching, through energy healing, through grief recovery. And I have a lot of tools in my toolkit that I use, so I like to customize the approach depending on the person, the individual.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And you mentioned for today, I know we want to kind of talk a little bit about the holidays, right? Because this is the
Yes.
difficult time, and it's here. We're in the height of it. We have
Yes.
Thanksgiving this week, we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, we have New Year's, and it's always these times. Tell us a little bit about what makes them extra difficult for those suffering.
Well, it makes it especially difficult because people remember those times that they shared with their loved one. And, there's so much hype about the holidays. You see it on you see it on television, on commercials, and, they start before Halloween actually with the Christmas things. And, it's really hard for people who are approaching the holidays to really get through it, because they have those memories of their loved one, and and it brings a lot of sadness. And also there's joy among the holidays, and I think people feel a little guilty about feeling happy or joyful when they're grieving at the same time. And it's perfectly okay to experience joy. Matter of fact, it's important to feel joy.
Yeah. Oh, but it's always so hard. I remember when my mom passed back in 2017, we actually did her service, her burial, cremation. It was the day before Easter.
Oh,
So
yes.
then it's like the next day is like the holiday. And it's like all
Hmm.
I wanted her was to feel that warm spring air in her face and like be here for
Exactly.
Easter with the kids. And oh my goodness, it is hard. And
It is
it's just a
hard.
hard time of year. So how do
Yeah.
you help people through this?
Well, I'd like to, and let me clarify that doesn't this isn't limited, like you said, to Easter. It's not
Yeah.
limited to this time of year, Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and all of the holidays toward the end, and New Year's. It's for any holiday or
Yeah.
any celebration, birthdays, anniversaries. They all are they're very similar. We experience the grief of missing the loved one, but also, the holiday, joyful celebration. So what I encourage people to do is to really take a look at, your look at your commitments. It's okay if you are being invited to let's say, Christmas parties or New Year's parties, or there's a lot of family events going on. It's okay to sit back and think of, what is most important. Set your boundaries. You don't have
Mhm.
to go to everything. If you're not feeling comfortable going to this party or this celebration or that celebration, it's okay to say no and explain to people why you don't want to go, and a lot of people will say, well, just come, it'll make you feel better.
Yeah.
Well, they don't know how you're going to feel. They don't know what you're going through at that moment. So it's okay to set boundaries um and tell people no. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And if you don't feel comfortable, and I'm not encouraging people to be in
Yeah.
isolation
But
and not be sociable at all, but pick and choose which ones you resonate with, which ones you think may help you along, and be around people that are supportive and understand what you're going through.
mm, couldn't have said it better. I know. And yeah, it's difficult for everyone. I mean, even people, with grief, everyone handles it differently, right? And then,
Right?
I mean, also you
Exactly.
have the holidays, but some people may go with the overeating or go with the drinking or the drugging
Mhm.
too. That's also another issue I'm sure you
Exactly.
see with grief, right? Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing about, alcohol, drugs, and anything else that can be an addiction or something that you use to make yourself feel better, it actually doesn't. It escalates the impact of your emotions. So if you're already sad, then that alcohol or the drugs or whatever, um is going to magnify those feelings. And so we don't want to do that. We don't want to magnify the loss or the sadness or the depression. We want to um and using things like drugs or alcohol. They only mask the feelings, the emotions, but they don't hide them and they don't cure them. So there's kind of a misconception that, oh, if I drink or if I do drugs or any other addictive behavior, that I'm going to feel better, but it's actually going to make it even worse. And it's maybe only temporarily hide or mask the feelings, but it's not going to completely eradicate them.
And any other suggestions what we could do during the holidays to feel better? I mean, like you said, everyone's different. Like it's good to have company, right? To be
Hmm.
with someone, but then there's people who want to be alone. So,
Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay if you want to be alone. And I encourage people to seek out new traditions. Look at ways of doing something different and starting your own traditions or your own rituals around, with your grief. And, whether it is, maybe donating your time at a food bank
yeah,
or doing something that's meaningful to you, but be surrounded by people that are supportive. You don't want to be around people that are going to say, this is the second Christmas, you need to move
yeah,
on, or things of that nature. So it's really important to be around the supportive people, but also find ways of doing something different, starting your own traditions. and
and
and you can also celebrate your loved one by doing something special on that day. um i I my husband and I used to have traditions of, on certain holidays and celebrations, we would make a special breakfast or we would have a special dinner. And he was a fabulous cook. So, fortunately, I learned a lot from his little strategies, and I saved some of his recipes too.
Aw.
But I'll make one of those meals for our holiday, for that holiday in celebration of him and just honoring him that way. So that's something that you can do.
Yeah, for sure. And let me ask how it works, with you, with your job, you as this coach, as this person that can help someone through the holidays. How does your role come into play if someone needs you?
If I really try to focus on them, and it really helps me to work with other people because I know that I'm helping them, but it also helps me when I'm working with them and I'm helping them. So I love that. And I find that when I'm working with clients, I don't bring my grief into the picture. I'll talk about my husband or I'll talk about a family member that I've lost, but it doesn't impact me where I can't focus on that.
Got it.
So
Mm-hmm.
um that, I'm grateful for that. And because the last thing I want to do is to bring them down. But it's mainly when I work with clients, it's a more of a, um, hey, let me tell you a story about my life with my husband. But it's not to take away from their experience. It may be to share how I dealt with something, how
And the
I dealt
fact
with.
you can empathize with it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
And now, just for someone who may not know, I know a little bit of your background, right? So I know, obviously about your husband, passing, and that was just horrible. After what, 40? You were married for 40 years, right?
40 years, yes.
Oh, and you also became not only a certified life coach, but also this spiritual practitioner. Or
Hmm.
and could you share a little bit about that and that type of aspect and how that's also helping people
Oh,
dealing with
absolutely.
grief during the holidays?
Absolutely.
Licensed spiritual practitioner. That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I became a licensed spiritual practitioner 10 years ago through the Centers for Spiritual Living. And what a spiritual practitioner does is mainly the same. It's similar to coaching. It's going through an issue that someone might have, and talking through it, and having the client act, because the client actually knows the answers, but they're just not able to tap into them at the moment. But by asking questions, and the same with coaching, is asking questions and
Hmm.
finding more about getting deeper into the situation, then a person can discover or reveal what they already know, the truth about them. And sometimes, and with grief, it's the same way, finding out maybe their purpose or passion through inquiry and asking them more deeper questions about their life. And with as a spiritual practitioner, I consider myself spiritual, not religious. So I don't base my coaching on any one specific religion. It's just being spiritual. And I will and close with an affirmative prayer. And what affirmative prayer is identifying the truth about that person, whether it is wholeness or peace or calm or joy, and finding the spiritual truth about that person and putting it into an affirmative prayer where and releasing that and being grateful for that, so that the client can go on with that. It's like an affirmation, being joyful, being peaceful, calm, serene, whatever that spiritual truth is. And then closing it with a prayer.
Beautiful. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for that. Also, at this time, let's remind everyone how we can contact you, please.
You can go to my website at healingourgrievinghearts.com. You can email me at k@healingourgrievinghearts.com. And there are some meditations on my website on the media page. And so there's a lot of information on my website where you can kind of find more about me and some examples of what I do. You can also reach me on Facebook at facebook.com/K, that's Kay dot Fontana. And
Beautiful.
so you want to uh, check me out on social media. I do posts and quotes, positive quotes, and a lot of them related to grief. And then also my Saturday morning podcast is I post on
Yep.
Facebook as
And what is that called? Where do we find it?
it is the Healing Our Grieving Hearts podcast, and you can find it on any podcast platform,
Perfect.
whether it's iTunes or iHeartRadio, and Spotify, all of those, Amazon.
Beautiful. All right. Well, what else do you want to share for today about getting through the holidays again amid grief? And by the way, we also should point out for those, we are talking about grief and loss of loved ones, but there's other forms of grief. Could you just
Oh,
share
absolutely.
how that could affect us as well during the holidays? Do you mind? Thank
Absolutely.
you.
There's through in the grief recovery handbook written by John W. James and Russell Friedman, they mentioned that there's over 40 different types of loss, and that could be moving to another state. It could be the loss of a home. It could be the loss of a job. It could be a divorce, estrangement, any type of, and it can be a loss of faith. And a loss of faith often comes from these other losses. And that loss of faith is, you know, maybe, why did God do this to me? Or, why did this happen to me? And so loss of faith a lot of times is tied to other types of losses. But, I really, this time in, this holiday season can be difficult in, not only the loss of life, but loss of anything else. Last week I adopted a new puppy, and
Aw.
he was just whining a little bit ago. But the
Pets
I
help with grief, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I adopted him because his family suffered a house fire. And, probably about a month ago, they lost their home, and they also lost 3 adult dogs. My puppy's parents were in that fire, but the puppies, there were 4 puppies, and they were in the chicken coop. So they lived out in, some acreage. And so they were not affected with, and so the neighbor took the puppies in and went out to adopt him. And I knew this woman because she was a childhood friend of my daughter's. And so I was hesitant about getting a new puppy because they are a lot of work, but he is such a sweetheart. And I am so blessed that I know that it was divine timing that I wanted a puppy. I've been talking about getting another dog, and this opportunity came about. So, and I don't suggest that you go out and get a puppy and that everything's going to
Mhm.
be, rainbows and
But,
unicorns. But
but
it's
yeah,
but he is pretty sweet. And I really encourage people to take care of themselves, take care of themselves
beautiful. Yep.
by, spending that quality time. Because holidays and anniversaries and birthdays, special days are so difficult.
They are.
Self-care is so important, whether it's eating healthy food,
Mm.
being around people who are supportive, taking time for quiet reflection, meditating, doing yoga, qigong, any of those things. Just really focus on self-care.
Beautiful. Well, we love talking about this and love that you're helping so many. Do you want to share any experiences or the people you're helping grieving through the holidays or any examples? Just I love hearing that. I think it just
Oh,
relates and resonates with so many.
well, I think that, I've had some clients that really, that their losses were many years ago,
Yeah.
many years ago. And they just didn't have the opportunity or they didn't know what to do about healing their grief.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, through working with them through coaching and through grief recovery and or they've realized that they had been stuffing their feelings for a long, long, long time. And holidays were always very
Yeah.
challenging for people. And matter of fact, one of my clients lost her husband on a holiday that day. And so and that was many years ago. So that holiday has always been a very difficult time. But this year she was able to get past that and see things in a new light. And I'm really grateful for that. And she's doing great. She's moving forward um, and really seeking out her purpose in life. And I think she's almost there.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And, it doesn't sound easy to say this, but I know we've talked about it. And I just like to remind everyone that time does heal a lot, but it does take
Mhm.
time. And no one wants to hear that when someone has a loss. Oh, you'll be fine in time. But you
Yeah.
agree to that, right?
Yes. I mean, time, people will always grieve their loss. They will
Yeah.
always. I will forever grieve over my husband. And of course my parents too and all the other family members. That loss doesn't go away, the grief doesn't go away, but time does help. As we move forward, things
Yeah.
become a little bit easier. I see so many people on women on Facebook who have lost their spouses, um, and they're saying, "I just don't know how I can go on. I don't know how I can, you know, this just happened, a
Yeah.
month ago or 2 months ago."
And
And it's like you will get through it. You will get through it. It does take time in order for things to start looking brighter.
hmm
But I know I've been there. And after 40 years of marriage and then losing my husband, I can attest to the fact that after a while things become easier. And I don't want to say that I don't cry here and there. Of course I do. There's sometimes where it's like, oh my gosh, I am really sad, but I know I have tools to move forward. I have tools to pick myself up and get out of that funk.
yeah, I know it's not easy. I know,
No, it's
but
not.
you know what? It's great that we talk about it and we're here opening doors and you with your podcast, obviously, let alone this one, to let people
Mhm.
know that it's okay and you can really help them find that strength and that
Yes,
resilience. And that's what it's
right.
all about. And by the way, just so people know, you're in Arizona, correct?
Yes, I am.
But you're working with people all over, right?
Right. I can reach anyone, even
I
if you're in Europe, we can find a time that's common. You can find a time that works.
I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure. Well, there's people like Cece from Sun City who says, a few years ago after my husband died, I attended the grief recovery program group with Kay Fontana because I was not handling the loss well. What happened for me was an unexpected blessing. My father had died 6 years prior, and due to his age and living quite far apart from each other, I had not realized I was affected by his passing. I was wrong. Working with Kay and the group brought understanding and insight about the two men and blessed fast release of my sadness. And the program helped me heal my life and ability to go forward in my life in a peacefully way. I was a bit hesitant to join the group and share my feelings, but I'm so happy I did because in hearing other group members' stories and feelings, I realized how similar we were in our grief, no matter our story. Thank you,
Right.
Kay. And that's from CC. So you do group coaching sessions as well as individuals too,
Yes, I
right?
do. Yes, I do. And she was it was really interesting because she reached out to me. She had heard that I did grief work
Aw.
and she asked if she could be part of my group. And I said, absolutely. And so when we started our group, she was in a really, really dark place. Her husband had just passed not that long before she reached out to me. And after she was complete, she was a whole different person. And she started traveling and hanging out with her. I mean, because at first before she started the program, she was completely, you know, a recluse. She didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to be with people. Um, but afterwards, she hooked up with her friends and started traveling. And now I can't keep up with her because she's always on the go. She is
Hmm.
always on the go and loving life. And so I'm really happy to hear that from her.
Beautiful. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. Would you mind sharing how we can contact you? Thanks
Absolutely.
so
So you
much.
can go to my website at healingourgrievinghearts.com or you can email me at k@healingourgrievinghearts.com, or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/k.fontana. And I
Beautiful.
want to encourage people that if you are struggling a lot and you are having
Hmm.
a really, really, really difficult time with the holidays or any other special event,
Yep.
then please reach out to their therapist. You can reach out to me. You can reach
Okay.
out to a trusted friend or family member. You don't have to do it alone. So I really encourage people to don't
Beautiful.
be alone if you are really struggling and you need help.
Good. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And one more time, how do we contact you?
Just email me at k@healingourgrievinghearts.com, or you can go to my website.
Perfect. Thanks so much. You have a fantastic day and enjoy your holiday. And we back
Thank
again then next week?
Next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much
All
for being here,
right.
for
Thank you,
joining
Jill.
us.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.